So even there's a little bit of rocking maybe we can do with the legs, shifting a little bit, but keeping the feet flat and just playing with the weight. As we're sensing the weight, we'll just slow this right down for ourselves and just slow it down when we're ready to just being still, seeing for ourselves where the weight has ended up. So we can split the difference front and back and left and right. And then keeping that downward pressure through the sole of the foot, we'll start to bring our focus up onto the legs. In the calves, the shins, just a light taking hold of the bones with the muscles. And then up in the thighs, we can really use those muscles to find the thigh bone and then lift our kneecap up. So all of the thigh muscles drawing up into our hip. And then once we have our attention in the hip, just a little tuck to our tailbone. And as we tuck the tailbone, let's also lift up and move back at the neck and the back of the head. See if you can find just for a moment, just a feeling of length through our spine, the back body. And then we'll work in the abdominal wall, fingertips down here in the hips, and either rubbing or tapping, whatever seems to make more sense. And just the activation of the abdominal wall from the contact of the fingers. So the abdominal wall gives us a gentle lift. And also, not only just lifting, but we also want to encourage the widening of the low ribs. And maybe as we widen here, go out to the side. And today, let's run the fingertips around where we can get onto the bottom of the ribs, just at the back side here. And then back round. Okay, and then let's just slide the hands back down. And now we'll bring the attention into the breath. So we'll start with the fingertips low in the hips and the inhales right up through the center body, getting up around the collarbones. We'll hold our breath as we extend and exhaling through the mouth, lips just slightly parted. Always allowing ourselves our own natural breath. So we are carefully extending the exhale, but never turning it into a struggle in the body. And on our inhalation, just taking the time we need so we fill our lungs. Top of our lung is just above our collarbone. So right up here where our arms are, we want air all the way up to there. And we're on our last one. Whenever we bring the arms down, we'll pause there. And then just a couple of gentle shrugs of the shoulders. So it looks kind of gawky for ourselves, but really give yourself the permission to bring the shoulders up, roll them gently back. And after 2 or 3, we'll switch the direction. And then when the arms are heading downward, we'll just pause there. We'll just finish off with a little shoulder rotation. So I've got the palms just away from the sides and the palms turn forward, outward, and then in and back. Easy with the wrists and elbows. The place we're working is the arm connecting into the shoulder. As we're just moving the arms a couple more times, tailbone still getting that little tuck, still lifting up, back of the neck, and then lift up a little bit in the armpit. So for ourselves, there's the weight of the shoulders coming off of the ribs. And then we'll just soften the arms, allow them to hang for a moment, and get our in-breath when it's time. When we come to our out-breath, just follow the breath down into the belly. On the exhale, our diaphragm descends. No, it doesn't. It rises as we breathe out. It relaxes and rises. And we're going to let the belly descend. So track down into the soles of the feet. We're going to start with the toes today. So you can just peel the toes up off the mat and then return the toes and float the heels up. Okay, we'll do one more. When the heels return, we'll lift the toes, we'll pause there. So with all the toes up, just take a quick look. Let's see if we can keep our big toes up. We'll take our little toes down. And then we're going to reverse. Get all the toes up. We'll push the big toes down. We'll lift up the little ones. And just back and forth. And then when all the toes are up, just pausing, see if you can spread them apart from each other. We're going to take them all down. We're going to dig the feet in, left and right. And then we'll be neutral. Just relax the toes for a moment. Feel the weight. We'll balance that weight front and back. Bring the toes up. And then shift the weight to the outer edge. So the arch clearly up off the mat. Bring the weight back into the inner line and the outer edges of the foot lifted. A couple more times. And again, once you've got the feet working, although we're experiencing the weight, let's also give a little bit of our attention over onto the back body. So that tailbone sinking, back of the head, neck, lifting, going backward. And then when the weight comes near the base of the big toe, let's just pause there. Let the toes release down. And then we'll do knees and ankles. So we'll bend the knees. Because the feet are close together, we should be able to get the knees to touch, our hands near our knees. Gentle circle. At some point, we'll switch our direction. When we're ready to, we're going to go back to the original direction. And when we're ready, switching last time. And from there, we'll just sink into center. Let the hips lower down. Squeeze the glutes into the hips. From just pausing for a moment, we're going to use an inhale. So when we're ready to breathe in, we're going to sweep the arms out. As we straighten the legs, we'll keep reaching up. And then just really reach for the ceiling. And now let the gaze go upward and lift the head upward, lift the shoulders upward. And then we're going to turn ourselves into a little ball. So on your next exhale, have the hands lower. So the eyes are going to follow the hands. When those hands get in front of the face, we're going to let the shoulders release. We're going to curl the head, the neck, and we're going to curl the back. We're going to bring our collarbone towards our pubic bone. So that internally is kind of a gentle pressing inward. And then we're going to inhale. We'll take the hands straight up the center line, fingers in front of the face, the head starts to lift, elbows lift, shoulders are lifting, everything's lifting as we extend the arms. And we get to full extension this time. Just press the hips lightly forward. And then again, reversing our own tempo, we're going to fold with the arms first. As the arms drop, the gaze follows the hands. Shoulders come lower, ribs round, upper back, all the way down the spine, rounding off. So you get here, and we can get an extra breath in this curled up place. We're tucking the tailbone. We're pushing the belly into the low back. And we're going to come up whenever we take an in-breath. So let the arms start, and then have the eyes, the head, as the arms lift, follow them all the way tall. Lifting the shoulders, lifting the ribs, pressing the hips lightly forward. And when we're ready to, we're going to melt over again. So this is the last time we'll melt over. And whenever we're ready on an inhale, we're going to bring ourselves up tall again. Reaching through the fingertips, lifting the shoulders, lifting the ears, lifting the ribs, hips going forward. And then reach down through the legs, feel the soles of the feet. And we're going to stay tall for our exhale. Whenever we get to exhaling, first let's just take the gaze straight ahead, lift up at the back of the neck. And it's the arms only that come down as we're breathing out. As the arms descend, little tuck at the tailbone. And just a free breath here. Nice big inhale. When it comes, let the shoulders lift up a little bit with that inhale. The tailbone sink a little bit. And when we exhale, just releasing the front body. Okay. Let's get our feet a little wider apart. So think of the feet under the hip sockets. If we put our hands here, we're kind of pointing right down roughly where we want our feet. And then we're going to bend the knees. So knees are parallel. I'm going to put my hands on the hips. So the knees are going to get circled, but we want to see if we can move from the hip. So we get a comfortable speed that lets us work in the hip. And then at some point, we change direction. And then come into the center when you're ready. Now, we're going to work the hips still, but think of drawing a figure 8 flat on a table. So horizontal figure 8. And we can really kind of take the hip to the side, take the hip to the side. And then when we're in center, we're going to change the direction. We can figure that out. So if we can, we want our circle heading in the other direction. And then we're going to bring our hips back into the center. So before we come up, let's just tuck the tailbone. So actually right here, we'll tuck our tailbone a bit. I'm just going to put my hands on the knees. I don't have to get too low. I can see what works, but I will, when I breathe out, tuck the tailbone, move the lumbar back, and then bend the elbows a bit to spread the collarbones. Lift the back of the neck and tuck the chin, and finish out an exhalation here. When the body needs an inhale, take the tailbone outward, backward a bit, flatten the lumbar. Don't extend it, don't push it toward the ground. Just internally feel it flatter. And now move the chest forward and upward. The neck lifts, push out in the crown of the head. Feel where the weight is in the soles of the feet, so you can balance that weight. And then when you get your new exhale, start at the tailbone again, get it to move, and the hips move. And then we find the lumbar, and it starts to flex. And then push the ribs, or not the ribs, the spine up between the ribs. And the collarbone spread. The neck lifts, but the chin tucks. Here, feel the feet. And we can get the weight even front to back, but also side to side. And then just pause here for a moment. See where the knees are. So press the knees outward a little bit, not super wide, but bring the knees clearly for yourself along the midline of the foot. So if you had a magic marker and drew a mark on the center of your knee, see if you can put that at the third toe. Okay, we're going to release with an inhale. We'll just float ourselves up nice and smooth. Okay, so from here, we're going to work with the feet again. So I'm going to get my heels close. I'm going to turn both feet outward. So that gives me about a 90-degree angle. On the right leg, I'm going to lift the heel up. I'm on the ball of the foot. So I'm just gently, I mean, we can overweight that foot, but I'm just going to have a gentle amount of weight. And what I want to do with that weight is shift it from the base of the big toe out toward the little toe. There's a couple of ways I can do this. I could wag my knee in and out, or I can put a finger on the top of my knee to still the knee, and then I can roll in and out more at the ankle. So we'll say that's enough of those. And now I'm going to lift up onto the tops of the toes, the very end. There's not much weight there, but I can get more weight through the feet if I roll over so the toes are tucked under now. And this can be a lovely place. This is a much easier position in the heat of the summer than in January. So if this is okay, what I want to explore is the front of the ankle, that top side of the ankle. It gently pushes itself outward. So there's not a lot of weight here going down into those toes. They've probably had enough. So let's come just going through being on the top of the toe and then back to the ball of the foot and just even pressure. The heel goes down and now return the weight even between the feet. So on the left side, I'll bring my heel off, feel the base of the toes, ball of the foot. Again, I can wag the knee to shift the weight through the ball of the foot, but experiment with keeping the knee stable and get the movement at the ankle. It's interesting to do this because we can discover real clear differences side to side. And then coming into neutral, What I'm going to do next is come to the very tips of the toes. This is almost just like a balance position where there's just a little weight there. And then I'm going to travel over the tips of the toes, and the toes are tucked under now. There's more weight there, much to the dismay of the arch. And then I'm going to gently push outward at the front of the ankle and start to create a stretch there. Now, when I'm ready to leave, I just pause for an instant up on the tips and then back to the ball, equal weight here, just gently pressing, and then the heel, and just pause for a moment. Now the feet are flat, and we could, if we want here, roll some weight toward the arch and then to the outer edge. So when we roll to the outer edge, we're going to let the big toe base ride off. And then back and forth. And then when you roll in, just pause there for a moment, push down at the big base of the big toe itself, lift the outer edges, and then see if you can really feel what you would have to use to lift those outer edges a bit more. And again, you might find differences in the low shins. And then we're going to release the feet down, and we just get to pause for a moment. In fact, we'll just float the heels up just a little bit. And the heels go down. Just pause for a moment. Can feel quite warm potentially down through the ankle and foot. So we're going to repeat this work with the right heel lifting. There's the base of the toes in contact. Again, I'll just touch above the knee just to remind myself to stabilize that knee and get the ankle to roll the weight in and out. Now the knee gets dragged around a little bit, but I want to do the movement from the ankle area. And then when I'm ready to, I've got that weight, kind of a little more of it at the base of the big toe. And then from there, I'll come onto the tips of the toes. And then I'm going to go over the tips. Toes are tucked under. Gently press out through the ankle. And if you're really crazy here, you could shift the weight again a little bit using the ankle, but be careful. Lots of places ready to cramp there. But you might find that you get some calf action there. From here, back onto the tips, down to the ball, down to the heel. And then for the left, the heel comes up. We find the ball of the foot. We're going to remind ourselves to minimize movement at the knee. And then using the ankle, shift the weight inward and outward. And then somewhere in the middle so that we can come onto the tips of the toes. It's a bit more of a balance pose with those tips of the toes, just like we were to, in a different position, touch a fingertip to the wall. We're going to go over onto the tops of the toes, gently press the ankle out. Now for ourselves, make sure this is okay. Again, it can feel very different side to side. I'm going to use the ankle to shift the weight one side to the other through the tops of the toes. And then when I'm ready to leave, tips of toes, base of the toes, the ball of the foot, down into the heel, and then keeping the feet basically down, shift the weight toward the midline, toward the outer line, and then bring the weight in toward the midline, keep the toes basically down. For sure, the big toes, their base stays down. Other toes may float a bit, but from the inside, I want to see if I can pull up on the outer edge of the foot. And we're going to find, we may find, but we're going to use muscles in the shins to accomplish that. And then I'm going to spread the weight evenly. And then I'm just going to get the weight off of the heel. So the heel may stay in contact or be just off the mat, but it definitely has no weight. And then I'm going to return the weight of the heel onto the ground. I'm going to open the heels out. So again, that puts my feet roughly under my hip sockets. Okay, so we're going to take our hands at the top of the hips. And when we come to our exhale, we're going to take the right side back. We're going to let go of the right arm and let it point straight back from the shoulder. For the inhale, the right arm is vertical and we turn forward. And then as we're breathing out, we touch the opposite shoulder and we just run this hand down that opposite side of the body. Really finish the exhale, give the neck a chance to hang. And then to come up, use an inhale, and the hand comes up on the right side, back to the top of the hip. And have that pause just to center. When you're ready, left side, left arm, releasing behind, inhaling up, exhaling, running down the body. So for ourselves, we really can have the pleasure of traveling with our breath. And without moving the head too much, have the eyes follow the hand in motion. Of course, when we get to the bottom, we just hang the head. So we're going to do one more for each side of the body. So we end with a left one. Once we've got that left one, I just pause for a moment. So we've got the feet about the same place. And then we want to feel the length through our core. And then from here, I'm just going to take my feet wider. So now maybe shoulder width in that area. And then I'm going to swing my feet in and bend the knees. This is almost like a single motion just to protect the knees. They really need to bend here. And then I'm going to press again into the feet. Now I want to feel that there's the base of my big toe and feel some part of the heel. I'm going to tuck the tailbone a little bit here. There's a little scoop to the tailbone, and I want to feel a little open in the low back. Now, if we really want to work this position for the legs, it's complicated where the knees want to press outward, but they're bent, so they can't literally go outward. So it's an activation of muscles rather than trying to force the joint. I want to activate the muscles that I would use to open the knees. And then I want to activate muscles at the inner thigh that I would use to pull the legs together. So this is just a way of bringing the muscles into play as opposed to trying to stress the joints. And that balance is one we need to find inside the body. And then I'm going to rest my hands on top of my hips. I start small and I move the ribs, the upper body, one side then the other, keeping the hips pretty still. And we start small here because we're really getting deep movement in the core. And we want to get those deep core muscles in play. And when we want to make it bigger, we're going to put the hands up at the bottom of the hips. And this, we can start to feel a little more movement. And then we're going to release the arms and just float them out. And then we're going to start to reach a little bit, reaching. And then let's play a bit with the arms where we go to one side, then the other, and rotating the arms. So I'm going to look to my left, the palm's up there. I'm going to rotate, look to my right, and that palm's up. And then just smoothly, gently, and we've got this motion, but check in again. What's happening at the tailbone and the knees and the feet? Okay, so when we look at the right palm, just turn both palms up, come back into neutral, and then just bend and put the fingertips onto the shoulders. Again, just check down in the lower body. So gently spreading the knees, but again, not pushing the joint out, activating the muscles, and pull the inner thighs, and then move the right elbow forward. We'll keep the gaze forward, left elbow. And have a nice, smooth, slow rate so that you can really work in the legs, in the hips, down to the feet. Okay, now when the right elbow is forward, extend the right arm. Now we're going to open up the left, but to do so, we have to lift the elbow as well as release the hand. So we had that moment, we can see the elbows poked up, and then we turn center and the arms switch. Right elbow above the shoulder. We get forward, although we're going to look forward, really push that left hand out in front. We keep our gaze, head turned forward. Okay, so we're on our last cycle. So when the left arm pushes forward, just pause there. And then after a moment there, turn back to neutral and have both arms in front. So just easy with the arms for a moment. Check the tailbone, check the legs, and then push out in the palms. So move the shoulder blades. So I'm going to bring the hands a tiny bit higher, tiny bit wider, and I want to feel the shoulder blades move. And then when I inhale, I'm going to go high, I'm going to go wider, and then again, look for the shoulder blades internally and find a place to hold these arms where you can feel, oh, there's my shoulder blades. And they're moving outward and upward a bit, and my neck is going backward, back of my head up. And then we're going to release from here. So just soften the arms. Let's get the legs out of this position. Straighten the legs, swing the heels in, bring the feet in. And we'll come back to the arms in a moment, but we're going to get the legs something fresh to do. So it's just gentle side to side, and it really just gives the muscles a chance to relieve themselves. It's a long time in that previous position, and it's possible to really feel some of the adductor muscles on the inner thigh when you're holding that place and really working with the muscle. Okay, so speaking of adductors, if we wanted to get them a stretch when it's the right knee, we could open out, and so these ones get stretched. Get a graceful path down to neutral. Okay, so whenever that right comes up and goes to the side, just see if you can touch the foot onto the standing leg for a moment. So sometimes this is a long moment and sometimes it's a short moment. Whichever moment it is, we just work with it. And so we can get a couple more for each side. So last set. So whenever we're done with that left one, just pause for a moment. I just want to show from the side, here's my right leg. Leg comes up, and I'm going to see if I can grab hold of the ankle with my right hand. So before I do anything, I just want to let the knee sink down, just from the inside, just let it hang. Don't actively try to push it down, just drop it internally. And then once you've done that, see if you can press it backward. And then in this place, create internally a little feeling of tucking the tailbone. And then we're going to release. Now, we talked about previously about touching the fingers somewhere, just like we had the toes just touched. So this is a good position to be near a wall and just have a couple of fingers touching a wall. It can help a lot with the balance. They don't really have to get a lot of weight, but it helps the body acquire the balance. So when we're ready for the left side, knee comes up, and we'll see if we can just grab the ankle. So I'm holding my left leg. So here, if possible, the right fingertips, if I need some balance assist or touching a wall or touching a table, the back of a chair. And then once I've dropped the leg from the inside, then I can gently push the knee back a little bit and potentially feeling a stretch in the quad that's optional there. And then we're going to release. And just pause for a moment with weight balance in the feet, any distance apart from the feet that makes sense to us. And then for the right, see if you can bring it up again. And is it possible to join the hands up underneath the right leg? So that leg right now is pretty passive. That below the knee, it's just hanging. But what I'm trying to do is with my arms to lift up and still have a little tuck to my tailbone. And then when we're ready, we'll try the other side. So leg comes up, we just sweep the arms underneath, see if we can connect the arms, lift up the leg. So leg's not really trying to lift itself, it's being held here. And then we're going to release. Okay. So what I want to do is use our mats to be on one knee, if that's okay. So I've got my right foot forward, my left knee down. Now, we do this, and it's very important that we have enough padding under this back leg, under that back knee, that the knee is comfortable. So I'm using 2 yoga mats, and sometimes that's not enough. I really want to encourage people to get enough padding there. You know, if it's uncomfortable, there's a point where it's too uncomfortable, the body won't release and get any advantage from the work. So we really have to take the time to get that right. So as we're working for this, I'm going to get my back knee, so in this case, my left knee, over right at the left side of the mat, I'm going to put my right knee over at the right edge of the mat. And then I'm going to bring my hips into the middle between the two. Now for myself, for my back foot, I've got the toes tucked under, or we can have the foot flat. Some days one feels really useful and other days it's the other. So listen to the body, find the one that works. And then to bring my hips into center, I will lean forward a little bit. It's just the way we're built. So we get the hips there, and then we fine tune this front leg. So see if we can get the ankle under the knee. So I want to lightly press down in this right foot, lightly push the right knee forward, lightly tuck the tailbone. In fact, if you like, just get a couple of small tucks and back and forth with the tailbone so you can feel that, and then come into tucked. Okay, so I'm going to start right hand. There's the inside of the right leg. There's a bit of action here through the arm, so the wrist is bent, fingers lightly pushing off to the right side. So all that is gentle, but just again activated. And this right leg is pushing in against the right arm. The right arm is pushing out against the leg, just enough that you'll start to feel potentially in the hip or at the top of the thigh some other sensation. Don't get that sensation too intense. We really just want sensation. So now my back arm, my left arm is free. I'll take it forward. I'll drop the fingertips, and then I'll just pick it up. And I'm just going to push up in the palm. So my initial thing I'm looking for initially is that I've lengthened up, but I want to lengthen up with the tailbone a little tucked. Again, I get a different result in the core when I can get that signal into those muscles. So pushing up and extending. And then if I'm comfortable here, I'm going to go over toward the right side, still pushing. Let the head go naturally as the spine goes. And then check in just on the right, that the right thigh pushing inward, and then really refine it for yourself. Have the right knee try to press outward, and then find the base of the big toe. And just gently, another big push, and an inhale brings us up tall, and internally establish tall, and then bring this left arm down, get a rotation, and then take it over toward the right side. Now, don't lean here, so move the spine back as you push that hand out. Breathe deep into the hips, and then literally soften that arm, bring the right hand on the right leg, and then get the weight out of the left knee, coming under both knees. We're going to sit down. Now, it's not always comfortable to sit on our heels, so sometimes just come down onto hands and knees. So I just want to take the weight off of that left knee for a moment. In fact, let's come onto hands and knees. We'll make it useful. What I've done here is I've turned my arms so my thumbs point forward, my fingertips just kind of spread out sideways. And then I'm just going to let the hips hang a bit over to the right, up, and hang a bit over to the left, and just easing them side to side. We'll just do a few of these, and then we'll go to the left side. Okay, so hips to the left is last. We're back in neutral. So we'll get one or two cat and dog stretches, always being willing to continuously change the rotation in the arms here when we've got this weight on the arms. So there's always a fresh position for the wrists. But a couple of cats and dogs. The cat stretch tucks the tailbone, tucks the chin, presses up at the lumbar, spreads the collarbones, pushes up through the upper rib, upper vertebra, lift the armpits. And then when you're ready, we're going to reverse with a dog stretch. The tailbone now does move back and up. We look outward, but we really want to lift the armpits here so there's length. And then just come neutral, maybe get one more, just a little smaller internally, a little more gentle. And then when we're ready, we're going to bring the left leg forward. I'm going to start for myself by moving my right knee to the outside of the mat. And then I'm going to step my left foot up and forward. So I'm positioning the back leg, in this case, the right leg. Pay attention to whether or not you want the toes tucked under or the foot flat. And then this left leg is forward. The hips have to come in the middle. So I'll get the hip in the middle, and then I might need to fine tune to get the ankle underneath the knee. So this front leg does have some work to do. We've got to press in the sole of the foot, a little more weight at the base of the big toe. Got to use the muscles like I'm trying to get the knee to go outward, and then use the inner thigh muscles like I want to pull the inner thigh back to the center line. So I'm going to take my right arm against the inside, left arm against the inside of the left leg, bend the wrist lightly and just press into the leg lightly, resist with the inner thigh. So lots of work inside that leg. Tuck the tailbone, take the right arm forward. So keep the chest squared forward, but push the shoulder forward through the palm, and then tailbone, back of neck, back of head, and then arm vertical. Now push for the ceiling. So really lengthen this right side. Check in with that front leg. Where's the weight through the base of the big toe, knees trying to press out, inner thigh trying to pull in. Push for the ceiling, and then start to reach over to the left side. And just breathe deeply, freely here. And keep the head in a natural, neutral position. Okay, let's come back vertical. Smoothly here, press up again to reestablish that place. And then take the arm down at shoulder height, rotate a little more, and then take the arm across the body. Now don't lean forward, push the spine back, press out in the palm. And then soften that right arm, release that left. Let's put the hands down, let's take the knee back. So if those toes were tucked under, flatten the feet. And just some gentle cat and dog. So really just movement, easy movement. And then when you've had a few of those, knees closer and the hips just drape a bit to one side, over, just drape a bit to the other side. Okay, and then back in neutral. I'm just going to turn my mat so you can get a better view. So still in this basic cat dog place. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my right leg straight back. So initially, base of the big toes on the ground. So I can press downward a little bit through the base of the big toes, just a little amount. Press back into that right heel. And then internally, press the right knee upward. And you might find something in the calf, which is enjoying the stretch. And then just while we're here for a moment, think about the wrists. Be willing to get some different rotations through the arm, so there's not the same weight all the time on the wrists. And then lift the armpits, and then lift up in the back body. Lift the back spine all the way down to the back of the waist. And then let's just soften, and we're going to let that right knee come back down. And we're just going to go right to the left. So on the left side, the toes are tucked under. So I'm going to press just lightly into the ball of the foot. And then again, just lightly into the heel. And internally, I'm going to lift the knee. Foot won't come off the ground. Just lifting the knee. And then in the front body, I'm going to lift the armpits. I'm going to look after the wrists. And then I'm going to lift the spine up a bit higher, all the way down into the low back, into the hips. And then I'm going to release. I've got both knees on the ground. 2 or 3 just very easy cat and dog stretches. And then we're going to go back to the right side. Now I get to the right side. I'm going to take the right leg back, same starting position. But I'm going to be a little different here. First, I'm going to check all the places. So I'm going to push into the heel, lift the knee, feel the weight at the ball of the foot. And then once I've found that, at some point I inhale, I'm going to shift forward a little bit. And as I shift forward, I'm going to lift the right leg. Now, it doesn't need to go high. What we want to see if we can feel internally is that that back heel is not higher than the hip. So if you can see me, this is too high. This is good. It can come below or just at the height. And, you know, if you want to get exotic for yourself, you could take your left hand and just feel what's going on at the back of the hip. So as I push my right heel up higher, I can feel how the right side, those muscles really engaged and came up, bulged up. So I want to come down. So with the hand there, I can feel level. Now let's try that for the other side. So we'll bring that right down. And then on our left, we send the left leg back. We have a moment for ourselves to find the energy in the leg. The ball of the foot, the heel, and the knee. Check that the armpits have lifted, and then float the leg up. Now, it's very easy to bring it up too high. And it's actually, in some ways, well, you know, the different heights of the leg, you're going to fire different muscles. So here, with it at the same height or a bit lower, we're deep in the hip, piriformis for sure. All those little muscles that we are really interested in strengthening and integrating. And if we like, we can use that other hand. If we want, the right hand is just checking that the sacrum, back of the hip feels level. And then we're going to bring that knee down. Okay, and then if we like, let's come onto the forearms. Let's get the weight off of the wrists. And with the forearms down, I'm just going to drop the hips back and then let the shoulders go forward. So hips sink back toward the heels, and then shoulders just come forward toward the hands, the wrists. And just an easy movement. Okay, so let's see if we can drop the hips back and find a position where we can just kind of hang the weight of the hips behind the back further than the knees, but not necessarily all the way down to the heels. If you can drop the hips onto the heels, no reason not to. If you're not comfortable for the knees, see if you can get your variation and potentially moving the arms further forward so the weight kind of balances between the arms and the hips. And if you do that, release the neck, look down toward the knees. Even tuck the chin a little bit, look all the way down between the knees, looking for the feet. So what I want to achieve here is comfort in my knees and simply a feeling of the weight of the hips hanging. The muscles don't have to work in the hips for this position. Okay, and then let's shift forward. Okay, let's see, what do we have time for? Oh, we got one more, good. So we're here, back to hands and knees. And then I'm gonna tuck my toes under, I'm gonna take my right leg back. So we can quickly go to this same place. Push back in the heel, lift in the armpits, leg no higher than the hip. And at some point I need to breathe out. Then I'm gonna move the knee up toward the nose and I'm gonna round the back. I'm gonna look at that knee. I'm gonna see if I can just hold it here for a moment, for a breath or two, and really work exhales and imagine scraping the knee onto your nose. And then when you're done with that, just put it down on the ground. We're going to do the same on the left side. We're going to send the left leg straight back and out. Feel the position. Lift the armpits. And then when you exhale, bring the knee toward the nose. Look at the knee. Have a breath or two here. Scrunch in the belly. And really push the knee and curl toward it. And then return it to the mat. Couple of cats and dogs. So we're going to do one more thing here. Then we're going onto our back. So I'm going to bring my knees pretty close. Now I'm going to move my arms differently. I'm going to open my arms out wider, my hands wider than my shoulders, a little in front of the shoulders. And then for me, I'm going to have the thumbs forward, the fingers spread, knees are close. And then I'm just going to take this right knee and swing it straight out to the side. And then I'm going to see about stretching it out, folding it back in, putting it down. So left, when we're ready, just hinges straight out to the side, potentially stretches outward and folds in and back down. Now, this can be hard. There's a lot of weight on the knees. You don't have to do this, right? But let's try for one more. And then if you got that one, we're going to now get onto our back. So when we're ready to, we just take the back onto the mat and the hands onto the knees. Okay, and use the hands to get the weight of the legs into the hands and out of the low back. And let the back of the waist, top of the hips, just sink into the ground. And then feel for yourself to get the tailbone off of the mat. And then our breath is just free into the belly. So genuinely let the belly expand and contract with the breathing. Now let's lift our feet up a bit. So we'll get the ankles higher than our knees. And then easy rotations at the ankle, letting the feet move freely in circles. And then see if you can, as the ankles are circling, working with the core of the body. So there's a feeling of the back of the waist lightly pressing into the mat. And then just that top line of the hip touching the ground. And then when you're ready, we're going to switch to circling the feet around the knees. And just let the hands help stabilize the legs as the feet draw circles. In both directions. And then come neutral. Just have the hands on top of the knees. Draw the knees towards the armpits. Let the feet relax. Feel the tailbone off the mat. And the weight at the back of the waist into the mat. And then let's take the hands off the knees and put the hands behind the head. So interlace the fingers, use the hands just to lift the head just off the ground. Now we're going to let the chin just get a natural little bit of tucking with the hands behind the head. We can relax the head onto the arms and hands. So we get a feeling of the neck being a bit longer. So we want to, in a sense, lengthen the neck backwards, but lift the head up a little bit using the hands so we can easily look downward and then see our feet. And then we're going to touch the soles of the feet together. So here's our last big effort through the ankles and the feet, keeping the soles of the feet together. We're going to draw a circle. And that circle's in the center line of the body. So it's like we're looking down at a bicycle wheel going round. Every so often we switch direction. And we can feel for ourselves way more than just the feet and ankles working here. And we're getting the whole chain from the hips all the way down into the feet. And just a couple more, switching direction. As you do this, work with the back of the waist as well. Keep it low. Last time, release the feet, move the knees apart, the feet apart, put the head down, take the knees, lift the feet up again, and just give them 1 or 2 circles. And then the feet around the knees 1 or 2 times. And then just relax the feet a bit, the knees, bring them in closer towards each other. Okay, let the right foot touch down on the mat and take the left foot and put it over on the right thigh. So foot or ankle. Ankle's actually better because then we can flex the ankle, whatever works. Now, what we can do here that's interesting for us, we can use the leg itself to press away from the head. So right knee gently pressing away. Little tuck to the tailbone, back of the waist, sinking into the ground. And then we're going to see if we can grab hold of that left leg. So use an exhale, lift the body, grab somewhere on the left leg. Sincerely doesn't matter. All we need to do is get a handhold. And then we put the head back down and then gently draw the left leg towards us as the right knee softly pushes away. Again, being careful with our joints. If we feel this, we want to have the feeling in muscles, not in joints. So we have to fine tune for that. Sometimes we need to move the foot higher or lower. It's very important that the knee feels protected. Okay. Now let's let go of our left leg, let the foot return. Take the hands onto the right knee and release the right foot with the hands holding on the right knee. Just get a couple circles in the ankle just to freshen it up. And then when you're ready to, a couple of circles with the foot going around the knee. And once we've done that, we're going to extend up the right leg and just rest the arms. So we'll have the right toes just pointed right up on the ceiling. Use the whole right leg like it's a big pencil and draw some circles on the ceiling. So different sizes of circle, different directions, maybe different colors. And then come back into neutral. Both hands grab the right leg again. Reach high up on the leg. We want a place where we can hold the leg, have the arms long, and just let the weight of the arms draw that right leg a bit closer. And now carefully push up through the right heel. And then press on the left foot. So tucking the tailbone, we're going to lift the tailbone off the mat. And then when we come to exhaling, let the exhale get started, then lift the head, tuck the chin, lift the upper back, move the upper body toward that right knee. And then from the inside, push the right leg away with the arms and the lift, try to pull it closer, push it away and pull it closer. So lots of dynamic energy. And then soften the head. Let's return the head, the upper back to the mat. Soften the leg, bend the knee. And we're going to return the leg onto the ground. Okay, we're going to bring the left knee in. Now the left foot ankle over on the right thigh. So the left knee is going to press itself gently away from the head. Being sensitive to the sensation in the knee. And at some point, we're going to breathe out. We're going to use our exhale to lift up, take our hands somewhere around the right leg, bring it in toward us, rest the head down. So gently moving that right leg closer, and then internally, the left knee moving away. Okay. And then let's release. We're going to return the right foot. So both hands take the left knee, help that leg to release, and then supporting the knee, a couple of circles at the ankle, a couple of circles through the knee. And then taking that left leg vertical, toes point to the ceiling, and drawing circles at the ceiling. We want to do both directions, circles of different sizes, and just paint on the ceiling with different colors. And then just come neutral. And then take both hands onto that left leg. Slide the hands high up the leg. Taking hold with the hands. Rest the head down, let the weight of the arms be on the leg. Now press a little into the opposite foot, the left foot, tuck the tailbone. Push up in that straight leg, push the heel toward the ceiling, push down on the right foot. Get the exhale going, and we're going to lift up toward the leg. So the leg is going to try to press away, and we're going to try to pull it toward. Just breathe into the belly. We're going to keep the back of the waist working into the mat. And then when we do come to an inhale, let's return the head. And then bend the leg. And guide the foot back down. And just pausing there. And we're going to stretch out our legs. Now, we've reached a point where basically it's time to stop. However, do listen to the body. Sometimes the body doesn't feel quite complete. If you feel a position that would be useful